Well, good morning, EGC. How are we doing this morning? Isn't the Lord good? Oh, man, what a blessing. What a blessing. What a blessing. Oh, what is it? What else do you say? What up? You know? One day I want to be as cool as your pastor as well. You know, Moruti, as I was preparing and praying, one of the things I love about Pastor Martin, firstly, is how much he speaks about Dr. Spe, you know. Every conversation, I think we are having husband counseling together. We talk about the beauties and how much we talk about our wives. You know, men, find other men that you talk good things about your wife with, you know. And, you know, one thing I really appreciate about you, Moruti, you go, man, Moruti, I'm scared of my wife. Me, Moruti, I'm scared of my wife. Me, It's a blessing to be friends with someone who loves his wife and serves his children. Dr. Spe, thank you for keeping this man and treating him. And one of the things I always say to him is I say, this is just the beginning for EGC. And the problem is with Moruti, I scare him, or sometimes he scares me, and I say, Africa is waiting, you know. And so it gets full here, and it sometimes get a bit uncrowded. But the problem is Africa is waiting, and it looks like God is doing something with EGC. So get ready, because God is going to move, and God is going to shake things in this continent. There will be better stories about this continent. We will be sending missionaries from this continent. We will be shaping Christianity in the world from this continent. This continent will be bringing salvation, will be bringing honor to God, because it's coming from Africa. Be prepared, because God is going to use EGC. Thank you so much. Please take your seat. Greet you all, and greet the minister as well. You know, one thing about coming to this church, it feels like I must brag about my wife as well, you know. But I won't brag. You came to the right service, but she unfortunately is only coming to the 11 o'clock, 11:30 service. Mother Teresa, it's my Women's Month. I had to start with a woman. One of the most influential women in the world, dedicated her life to Christian service, but most importantly, dedicated to her life to one of the hardest parts in the world. She found herself in India in a slum called Kolkata. A slum is a township. One of the roughest townships in the world. Overcrowded, high unemployment, and all the issues that come with it. She tells the story of one day she was walking back to the parish where she was serving. And as she was walking back to that parish, she saw there was someone lying down on the street, but everyone in front of her just kept looking away and walking past. She, with all the strength that she could muster, started to walk to the person. And as she walked to the person, she actually kneeled down to this person who was lying down. This person was sick. This person was filled with sores, and it looked like their life was crashing in front of them. She knelt down, and as she knelt down with all the strength she could muster, she took out what she could, and she started to wipe the sores. And as she started to wipe the sores, she realized this person needs medical help. And so she tried to pick up this person and take them to the nearest place where they could get help and assistance. But everyone around her was looking at this, started to ask and say, why would you do that? Firstly, you're a woman. 2, you don't have enough strength. And 3, this person was filled with sores. And she replies with this very important quote. She says, I see Jesus in every human being. She says, I say to myself, this person is hungry and I see Jesus in them. And so that means I must feed him. If this is sick Jesus, so if this is sick Jesus, then I must wash him and tend to him. Mother Teresa is teaching us a very important lesson. This is leadership without a spotlight. This is leadership without approval. This is leadership that people can't even see. She doesn't need no platform to lead. She doesn't need people clapping for her to lead. She says, I see Jesus in every human being. So if a person is sick, that's Jesus. If I can wash, I will wash them. If I can feed, I will feed them. This is leadership without a spotlight, without approval. I don't know if you know anything about our world, but we need leaders. South Africa and our world has a lack of leaders. A leadership consultant says we need leadership. And the leadership that is true is a lost art. And we live in a world where we have issues upon issues. We are living in a time where the hunger for leadership has never been greater. But here's the most interesting thing, that the definition of leadership in and of itself has been confused. We see it in our government and our political systems. We see it in our own families. We see it in our own businesses. We see it in our workplaces. And we see it in our schools. And we see it around us. You see, there's a need for direction. And that direction must come with integrity. Yeah? And after it comes with integrity, that direction must come with courage. We need people who don't just want to take control, but also take responsibility. The control one is very nice. The responsibility one is a bit more harder. And so here's the problem. Because we all have been burnt by bad leadership, by bad managers. Or none of you have had that. All your managers are great. I like that. We all have felt the effects of bad leadership. Sometimes from our own homes. Sometimes from our own families. Sometimes in our workplaces. And sometimes even in our own businesses. But here's the problem. When the right people shrink back, what happens? The wrong voices step forward. And you see, leadership isn't just C-suite executives, people with fancy titles like managers and directors and executives. Leadership is the parent at home who's raising her kids in a godly way. Leadership is a student taking all the hard decisions now to reap the fruit later. Leadership is making sure that you are using your time and your opportunities now so that you can reap the fruit later. Leadership is bosses leading and loving their people with care. Leadership is loving your friends. Leadership is serving your family. Leadership is not tied to platform and not tied to titles. Leadership is not a position. It's never a position. Leadership is always a posture. Someone wrote a book and says you can lead without a title. And that is all of us. And so you don't need that promotion. It will be nice though because the money is good. But you don't need that title. It would be nice because then you'd feel better about yourself. What you need is a posture. And today I want us to reflect and look at what Jesus says about leadership. And so my thematic expression is, I can't hear you, my thematic expression is, hey, it's the mantle of leadership. The mantle of leadership. Jesus is one of the best leaders, the greatest leaders. And this is what makes Jesus very unique. Jesus led a revolution with 12 uneducated men. Uneducated men. And that revolution is still growing today. There is 2.5 billion Christians in the world. And village upon village, 12 men have changed the world after the leader had gone and had been with them for 3 years. And so Jesus is going to potentially teach you some things that might be helpful for your season of life, might be helpful currently in whatever leadership transition or position that you might be in. And so if you would allow me the honor to turn our Bibles together to John 13. John 13. The mantle of leadership. John 13, it goes like this. Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power and that he had come from God and was returning to God. So he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing and wrapped a towel around his waist. This is the story where it's leading to where Jesus now is going to start washing his disciples' feet. But it's giving us a prelude, and it starts with two very important words. Jesus knew. What did Jesus know? 3 things. Firstly, he knew that the Father had given him all power, and that he knew that he had come from God, and that he knew that he was going back to God. What we know about Jesus is that Jesus was fully aware of who he was, where he comes from, and most importantly, where he is going. He knew his position, he knew his identity, and he knew his authority. And if he knew himself, then it means that he was not insecure. Jesus was not looking for approval. Jesus was not looking for more likes. Jesus was not looking for more claps. Jesus was not trying to impress anyone. He knew who he was. He knew what he has. He knew where he is coming from, and he knows where he is going. You see, Jesus now begins to take off the towel because he's about to do something radical. He's about to wash his disciples' feet. Here's the key thing. Jesus didn't serve to become great. No. He served because he already was. Jesus didn't serve to become great, but he already knew he was. And I don't know if there's a sickness in our generation of insecurity. I don't know if you found it where you see somebody doing much better than you and you want what they have. Or I don't know if we live in a generation where we don't even know what we have and what our story is and the things that God has deposited in us because we are seeing what other people have and what other people are doing. We are living in a time where because someone else is doing it, surely I should do it. We are in a generation where we do not even know who God calls us to be. We don't even know what our gifts are. We don't even know our own stories because we are living through other people's stories and other people's realities. The interesting thing about Jesus is that he knew who he was. If you do not know who you are, you will always try to be other people. If you don't know who you are, you will always try to lead another life that is not yours. If you're always looking for approval, you will never be happy. There's not enough claps to get you satisfied. There's not enough likes that will make you secure in your identity. There is not enough people that you deem great, no position that you think is amazing, because soon you will get there and realize you are still not full. Leadership, Jesus is teaching us, starts at its core, not by doing things, but it starts at the core with identity. And we have a situation where we do not know who we are. We don't even know our own story. We don't even know what we are good at. We don't know what the stuff that even God has called us and told us to be. Leadership in of itself does not even start with the mission. It starts with the identity. Jesus knew who he was. Jesus knew where he is coming from. Jesus knew where he was going. The question that we need to ask ourselves is, what do you have in your hands? Where are you going with what is in your hands? And where will you be with what you have in your hands? We even find it difficult to start saying it because I am not looking at who God has called me to be. I'm always looking next door. Always looking at the person beside me. Jesus then goes to wash his disciples' feet. We must understand the situation here. At that time, there weren't chairs. The tables were about that long, and people would sit on the ground. The second thing is that you must understand that Jesus was walking with his disciples. They would walk from village upon village without the necessary cars and the 4x4s that we would have. And so it meant that their feet were dirty because they were wearing sandals. But also they were wearing robes. The reason why he took the towel off his garment was because as you entered the house, because you are walking on gravel road, your hands and your feet were dirty. So as you would come in, your hands would be washed. Now, Jesus goes in and he gets up from the table. And as he gets up from the table, what does he start to do? Because the tables were that much, all the disciples were on the floor. But because Jesus knew who he was and he didn't serve to be great, he served because he already was. The disciples themselves should have been the ones serving him, but now Jesus is the one getting up from the table. And Jesus now gets up from the table, even though he should not be getting up from the table. Surely the disciples knew that they should be the one having the honor to wash their leaders' feet. But Jesus, because he knew who he was, because he knew he didn't do it for any approval, gets up from the table. And as he gets up from the table, he takes the towel from himself and starts to do what? Wash his disciples' feet. Now the feet, as you know, it's a very nice, smells nice. a leader of his capacity, should have been the one whose feet was washed. But because he knew who he was, decided that he is going to wash his disciples' feet. Let's read from verse 7 till 9 in the same verse, John 13. And so he starts to wash his disciples' feet, and now he has a conversation with Simon Peter. And he says this from verse 7, "You do not realize now what I am doing, but later you will understand." "No," said Peter, "you shall never wash my feet." It seems about right. Why should the King of Kings wash my feet? And Jesus answered, "Unless I wash you, you have no part from me." Then Simon Peter responded, "Not just my feet, but my hands and my head as well." It starts a conversation where Jesus starts to wash the disciples' feet. And Peter thinks he's doing God a justice by saying, "Please don't wash mine, I am fine." And Jesus says, "You do not understand what I'm about to do." And then Jesus says, "If I don't wash your feet, you have no part from me." Which means there are parts in you that need to be washed that are not just visible. Your feet might be dirty, but there's a work that needs to happen on the inside of you. And if I don't wash it, you've got no part from me. That's why Jesus says any fruit that does not bear tree, what does he do? He cuts it out. And so that means if Jesus does not wash you, there's potentially some other things that are washing you and making you more dirty. And so I need to stay a place where there is dirt, I need to wash it and make it clean. Where there is issues, I need to wash it and bring recalibration. Where there are issues in your life, I need to come in. Sometimes me and you are just like Peter. It makes sense. If there's a great man here, the last thing I want him to do is to know my stuff. The last thing I want him to do is to know my issues. The last thing I'd want is to show all of my bad issues. Jesus says, I don't just want what is visible, I also want what is invisible. I want your heart, not just what is on the outside. Jesus says, if I do not wash you, you have no part from me. The problem is with me and you is that we don't want Jesus to wash us on the inside, only the outside. I want Jesus to wash me on the outside because if he washes me on the outside, other people will think I'm clean. If Jesus can just wash me on the outside, you will think I'm much more better than I am. If I could just have Jesus wash my feet and just my feet. But Peter comes to a realization where he says, don't just wash my feet, but wash my hands and my head as well. What is Peter saying? I want you to wash my hands. I want you to wash how I work. I want you to wash how I am productive. I want you to wash the things that you have called me to. Because I don't just need you to wash how I am going to get there. I want you to wash when I get there, how I work. I don't just want the promotion, but when I get there, to do much better than how I am now. And then Peter says, I don't want you just to wash my feet, just my hands, but also I want you to wash my head. Father, I want you to wash my motives. Father, I want you to wash the stuff that I consume. Father, I want you to wash my insecurity. Father, I want you to wash how I view myself. Father, I want you to not just wash my feet, wash my hands, but wash my head. Because everything that comes from the head surely will come to the hands, and how my hands go surely would lead me to the places that I go. And we know that you don't change your life by thinking better, you change your life by reading the word of God, and that's how your life will change. So Peter says, Father, I don't want people to see me looking good, I want to be good on the inside. Father, I don't want to just do good, but I want to be good for you. Peter says, I don't just want to look good for my manager. I don't want to just look good for my peers. I don't want to look good for my family. I want to look good for you. You would be interested to know that this is the same Peter, oh my goodness. This is the same Peter, oh my goodness, who decided to betray the same Jesus after this encounter. Which means that the purifying process does not stop only when it happens once. No. No, I need Jesus to wash me every day. I need Jesus to wash me of my unforgiveness. I need Jesus to wash me of my unproductivity. I need Jesus to wash me of my everyday. I need him yesterday, I need him today, and I need him tomorrow. So Jesus, wash me. Jesus, wash my unforgiveness. Jesus, wash me. Jesus, wash my insecurities. Jesus, wash me. Peter knows much better than I that we need Jesus not just to wash us on the outside. Oh my goodness, but do a work on the inside. Oh, do a work on the inside. So much so that when I go out, people don't see my great leadership. People don't see my great degrees. People don't see my great English. But people see Jesus. Because it's Jesus who is washing me. Because it is Jesus who is molding me. So surely I can be a better wife because Jesus is cleansing me. No. My husband can act in the wrong way, but because Jesus is washing me, I will be a much better wife. I will be a much better son, even if my mom doesn't listen to me, even if she makes decisions I don't want her to be. But I will live and lead the life God calls me to because Jesus is washing me. Yes, we live in an age of podcasts and books and social media reels, but we need the cleansing of God. We need the motivation that comes from being with God. Peter knows, I need Jesus to wash me. The problem is we come to Jesus only on the exterior. That, oh Father, fix my addiction. But not knowing that your addiction itself has a root cause because you started to do it because other people thought if you would do it, you'd be much better. Or maybe your addiction doesn't just come from a place of doing wrong things, but you thought you were much stronger than what you were. You just say, Father, I need a cleansing from my unforgiveness. But actually, the reason why you have unforgiveness is because you think too highly of yourself. And so it's not just my addiction or my unforgiveness, but my ability to even love people because I think I am much more lovable than what they are. And so I need Jesus to cleanse me on the inside so that my feet are much more steady and I can walk in the way that he calls me to it, that my hands are much more clean. So whatever I touch, it's not because I want your approval, but because I know I've been approved already. The mantle of leadership, the first one is to make sure that your identity is in God. We don't lead and do things because we want approval, but we lead and do things because we've already been approved. We are already a son and a daughter. There is no approval that will make you much more better than knowing that you are loved by God. If you know anything about human beings, they might like you today and not like you tomorrow. If you know anything about yourself, there's people that you liked yesterday that you can't even stand today. And so whenever I take my step on a Monday morning, I'm getting back into that office. So I'm sitting behind that computer. I don't do this to be accepted. I do it because I'm already accepted. I don't need you to like me. I've already been liked. I've already been loved. And the second thing is that God is not just calling us to lead well, but he actually wants us to be cleansed fully. You see, leadership is not just doing the right stuff, but it's doing it from a right place. And so if that place is not right or that place is not clean, you're not going to do the right things. Father, clean my motivations. Clean my inclinations. Father, continue to do a work within me. As Jesus closes in the scriptures, he says, speaks to his disciples, he says, now I want you to do what I have done. And so leadership in of itself is not just having the right identity and being cleanly clean, but it's to serve. And the problem with serving is that we serve people who are undeserving of our serving. If you know anything about serving, it's nice to serve people that are deserving of your serving. But God here is washing his disciples' feet. Remember, he's saying to Peter, you don't know what's going to happen. It's the same Peter who in a couple of more verses after that actually betrays him. It's the same Peter who disappears when he's on the cross is the same Peter who decided that no, I would rather do things my own way. But that same Jesus washed his same feet, knowing that same Peter was going to betray him. And so service at its core is never about the person. It's always about the posture of your heart. Even if they leave, continue to love them. Even if they're not around, continue to speak well about them. Even if they don't say thank you, continue to serve them. Even if you do not like them, serve them. God is not calling us to love, to serve only the people that we love. That same Peter's feet was washed. But it's that same Peter who betrayed Jesus in Jesus' darkest moment and darkest time. Me and you, we speak better about someone who's just blocked us. And we can't wait to tell the whole street about it. The mantle of leadership. Make sure that your identity is never rooted in yourself and in your achievements, but is rooted in God. The second thing is make sure that God is not calling us just to lead well in this season of your life, but to be cleansed fully. And the third thing, serve the people that you do not like. Serve the people that do not serve you back. Serve the people that never say thank you. That family member that keeps asking for an e-wallet on the 15th. And you felt like, I've been doing this for far too long. Continue to serve them. Maybe it might not be with money, but continue to serve them with your time and your care. Continue to serve the people that you don't like. The mantle of leadership. We all are called to be leaders. No matter your season, your place, and even your position. So make sure your identity is rooted in God. You're being fully cleansed and you are serving people.